The horror game of the Underworld fire has landed a new player, who appears to be a fragile and short-lived little white rabbit. Watching Tao Na's mental health plummet at the beginning of the game, ghost audience. This little white rabbit won't survive for a day in the dungeon. The next second, Tao Na, who was still trembling, suddenly had a surge in mental health, playing pranks on the evil NPC and escaping from the mortal realm. The first instance ended, and Tao Na not only lacked a dog belt, but also became the deity worshipped by all the evil spirits in the NPC of that instance. Ghost viewers. This is just a D-level dungeon, little white rabbit is just lucky. But then for each instance, Tao Na's operations went against the sky one by one, playing the reversal out of the sky. In the dungeon of Tian Shan Funeral Parlor, several live corpses besieged Tao Na and pushed her to a desperate situation. The little white rabbit, who was originally frightened and trembling, suddenly had a surge in battle value, trampling all the live corpses underfoot. Either submit to me or fly to ashes. In the dungeon of City of Fantasy Love, the enchanting sea demon held Tao Na in her arms. Seeing her fall for herself, she had just revealed her bloodthirsty fangs, but was secretly tricked by a young girl in her arms. This trick is still good for deceiving young girls, but I don't want this trick, she said. Watching Tao Na collapse one instance after another, conquer waves of evil spirits and become her followers, the ghost audience. Tao God, how many more faces do you have that we haven't seen before? Keywords of the novel. I went viral without a pop-up window after experiencing schizophrenia during my live streaming in the Underworld. I went viral after experiencing schizophrenia during my live streaming in the Underworld. Download the complete text. I went viral after experiencing schizophrenia during my live streaming in the Underworld. Read the latest chapter. Chapter 1. Tian Shan number 44 Crazy Home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Tian Shan number 44 Crazy Home. After a brief dizziness, Tao Na finally opened his eyes. What caught the eye was a cracked mirror embedded in the wall, and a washbasin covered in blood and dirt. Both the walls and the tiles on the floor seem to be coated with a layer of oil stains, dirty, and the air is filled with an extremely unpleasant odor, like excrement intertwined with some kind of rotten odor. From the broken mirror, Tao Na vaguely saw that her clothes had changed, no longer the previous teddy bear pajamas, but a white nurse uniform. What is the situation? She wasn't in the dormitory preparing to play games with her roommates, how could she suddenly come to this inexplicable place? Accompanied by the questions that popped up in Tao Na's mind, a mechanized female voice suddenly rang in her ear. Ding! Detected new player entry, now load player's basic information. A small square electronic screen appeared in front of Tao Na, displaying her personal information. Player name. Tao Na. Original identity. Ordinary college student, gender. Female, age. 18, remaining lifespan. 10 days, health. 60/100, physical strength. 45 out of 100, spirit value. 50 out of 100, intelligence. 90 out of 100, lucky value. 10 out of 100, personal skill points. 3, initial integral. 0, ghost coin. 0, personal talent. If you have yin and yang eyes since childhood, you can see and perceive ghosts and monsters, and it is also easier to win their favor. Personal comprehensive score. D, evaluated based on the player's physical, mental, and physical fitness. At the end, Tao Na frowned and stood still, finally figuring out what had happened. Originally, the comments she had heard from her roommates before were not her illusion. Memory goes back 10 minutes ago. Today is the weekend and there are no classes to attend. Tao Na is sleeping in the dormitory. Vaguely, she seemed to hear the voices of her other two roommates, Su Xiao and Che Bebe, talking. Bebe, are you really planning to let Tao Na go in with you? She's a mental illness. She lived in a mental hospital for a few years before, and her body is still weak. Are you asking her to go in, not asking her to die? I am also forced to be helpless. If no one replaces me, then it will be me who died. Tao Na is an orphan, and no one will be sad when she dies. But I am different, my parents will definitely be very sad. Finally, Che Bebe choked up. Su Xiaoxiao and Che Bebe deliberately lowered their voices, and Tao Na slept in a daze, unable to hear clearly. For a moment, she couldn't figure out whether she was dreaming or in reality. Until Che Bebe's voice sounded very clearly in her ear. Tao Na, wake up. Tao Na opened her eyes and saw the brilliant smile of Che Bebe. It was the first time she had seen Che Bebe smile so kindly at her. Although there has been little communication with Che Bebe before, Tao Na has always been gentle and polite, still asking her if she has anything to do. It's like this. I've been playing a game recently and I'm missing a teammate to do a task with. Can you help me do it together? Che Bebe said, directly sharing the game app mini program on Tao Na's WeChat. Let me take a look first, I'm not very good at playing games. Tao Na took out his phone and opened the chat dialog box with Che Bebe. An app called Netherworld Live has forcefully entered Tao Na's site. The icon on the app is the face of a very handsome and eerie man. A man's facial features are so outstanding and profound that even AI modeling feels inferior. His skin is snow-white, he has a head of jet blue hair, and his blood-red eyes are like gemstones quenched with blood. Staring into the man's eyes, Tao Na inexplicably felt a bit eerie. Although it was just an icon, she had a feeling that her soul was being stared at by the extremely beautiful blood eyes on the icon, and she had no way to escape. Is this definitely not a fraudulent app? Tao Na turned his gaze to Che Bebe with difficulty. She really can't figure out what connection this naughty icon has with the Underworld live broadcast. Che Bebe grabbed Tao Na's hand and forcefully pressed it onto the app icon. Is it a scam? Just play and you'll know. Before Tao Na could break free, he saw darkness in front of him. Then open your eyes again, and you will see the scene in front of you. Pulling back his drifting thoughts, Tao Na frowned and looked around again. Now it seems that there is indeed a problem with that app. And Che Bebe also deliberately tricked her into coming here. But where exactly is this? Next, we will load the player's live dungeon data. The sweet female voice once again attracted Tao Na's gaze to the screen. Live room number 9210, live broadcast room level. Small transparency, current number of ghost viewers in the live broadcast room. 0. The current live broadcast instance is a D.level instance, Tian Shan number 44 crazy home. The current instance data completeness is 30%, there is almost no reference value, you can click on the details to view. Number of participants 7+1, survival requirements. Complete the main task within the 7-day internship period. Be a qualified and good nurse. Follow the hospital's rules. Kind reminder, if you die in the dungeon, you will also die in reality, main task. Players need to personally trigger the task conditions. The countdown is now 120 minutes, if the task has not been triggered after the timeout, it will be considered a failure. The perfectly hidden eye-shaped camera in every corner aimed at Tao Na, who was carefully reading the materials, and transported the footage to the broadcasting hall. The dazzling lights illuminated the entire hall, and the walls of the thousands of square meters of the studio were adorned with small square LCD screens. Each small screen had the words Underworld Live app in the lower left corner. Countless small screens are filled with real-time live broadcasts of game players, bloody and violent, some even during the process of players being turned into dishes by ghosts and monsters. The hall was crowded with ghostly viewers who came to watch the live broadcast. Some of them politely maintained their pre-death state, appearing no different from normal people, but some casually remained in their death state, full of strange things. The northernmost small screen on the left wall that just lit up caught the attention of many ghostly viewers. Strange. I remember that there were only 7 players in the dungeon of Castle Peak number 44 Madman's Nest, but suddenly there was another player. The ghostly audience spoke as they hung their large intestine around their necks as a necklace. Take a look at the information of this extra newcomer. Surprisingly, she is a pitiful little girl who grew up in a mental hospital. Ha ha ha, I'll bet a ghost coin that she won't survive for a day in the dungeon. The audience then spoke to a headless ghost. Our underworld is really keeping up with the times. God knows how boring it is for us to wait for reincarnation. Watching those living people suffer, I feel a little bit of balance in my heart. The LCD screen displays the situation outside the studio, and the excited and twisted expressions of those ghostly viewers are displayed in high definition. Unlike the noise in the lobby, behind the studio, in the luxurious palace-like living room, the large LCD screen almost occupies the entire wall. A slender figure sat on the dark red sofa, with most of his body hidden in the darkness, only the slender and straight legs stacked on the coffee table faintly visible. There is less than a minute left until the start of the live broadcast, sir. There is no time to fix the bug. A black cat lay on the coffee table, its golden pupils flickering with dim light, and its mouth continued to open and close. That extra player, the system cannot erase. Impossible to erase. The man's deep and magnetic voice sounded softly, as if the sound of decadence had come from beyond. The black cat's face showed a rare and incomprehensible expression. This is the first time this situation has occurred, and there is only one solution now, which is to send an NPC in and directly kill that player. It's just a little thing, there's no need to stir up a crowd. The man adjusted to a more comfortable position, his deep voice sounding emotional. Move out the live broadcast room with the extra newcomer and be ready to send me to the dungeon at any time. The black cat's paw pressed on the remote control next to it, and the screen of the LCD screen was immediately switched to Tao Na's side. The new book is delicate and requires the irrigation of all the treasures to thrive. If you like it, please collect a 5-star review. With your support, Tao Na and I can go further. There are surrounding activities and building activities in the book review area, so don't miss them when passing by. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Begins the whole life. Playing coquettish is the best fate for women. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 begins the whole life. Playing coquettish is the best fate for women. The 2023 episode of the Underworld live broadcast officially starts. Let's bring joy. Accompanied by the high-profile sound of Swona, the sweet female voice became excited and generous. Tao Na saw several bullet comments drifting on the electronic screen, and the number of ghost viewers in the live broadcast room increased from 0 to 150. System notification. Congratulations to the player's online ghost audience breaking through 100. The Netherworld Mall has been activated for the player. Player ghost coins can be used to purchase items or draw prizes in the mall. Personal initial skills and new item gift packages have been distributed to the Underworld Mall. You can log into the Underworld Mall to view them. Tao Na, who only wanted to understand this horror game now, was about to go to the mall to check when she suddenly heard heavy footsteps coming from the hallway outside. Dong 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 dong. It's like a person's feet deliberately stomping heavily on the ground, accompanied by a hoarse female voice of cursing. These new arrivals don't understand the rules either. Today is the first day of internship registration, so they dare to be late for the morning meeting. If they are late, they will be punished. The sound was like a broken bellows, eerie, hoarse, and inexplicably piercing. When Tao Na stopped at the bathroom door with footsteps, she decisively ran towards the nearest compartment to her. After Tao Na entered the compartment and locked the door, the bathroom door was forcefully kicked open from the outside, and then heavy footsteps stepped into the bathroom. Is anyone there? Standing on the squatting pit, Tao Na heard the sharp female voice impatiently asking outside. She could clearly feel the heavy footsteps approaching this compartment, and at the same time, a very strong smell of burnt carrion came along. Breathing tightly, Tao Na had never felt such a violent heartbeat before, and the strong sense of crisis made her hair stand on end. She has had yin and yang eyes since childhood, and can see ghosts and monsters. She is very sensitive to the malice and existence of ghosts and monsters. Now, through a door, she could feel that the malice outside was already quite strong, even surpassing the evil spirits. The person outside is definitely not human. At this moment, Tao Na saw a red system notification floating over her electronic screen. Detected that the player is suffering from mental pollution, with a mental value of 0.1. Attention! When the player's spiritual value is below 20, they will lose their rationality and be assimilated by ghosts and monsters, staying in the dungeon forever. I'll ask for the last time, is anyone there? Accompanied by the woman's increasingly sharp voice, the heavy footsteps also stopped outside the compartment where Tao Na was located. Outside the compartment, a chubby woman in a tight nurse dress stopped, her face covered in dead gray and her particularly flat features resembling a scribbled drawing with a pen. There was no organ in its rightful position, and a pair of low and high squinting eyes looked maliciously at the thin door in front of her. Undoubtedly, it is a non-chieftain with a lucky value of only 10. The instance of green crazy appears to be a beginner instance, but in fact, the newbie mortality rate is the highest. This newbie is really unlucky. Just as she entered the dungeon, she encountered Red Sister and triggered the punishment rule. Red Sister is the worst-tempered NPC in this dungeon, and she loves to use non-human means to punish players who make mistakes. Upon seeing the last barrage, Tao Na's body recoiled a bit, and his back almost pressed against the cold wall. Despite being separated by a door, Tao Na could still feel a sticky and cold gaze staring at her. The mental value also dropped by 2 points with a swoop. The feeling of dizziness also followed, and the fragile stomach was also throbbing with pain. The strong smell of carrion stimulated Tao Na to almost vomit. If she continues, she will either be punished or alienated. Neither of these results will satisfy people. Adjusting his breathing to calm himself down as much as possible, Tao Na quickly opened the dungeon data panel. I know you're inside. Little one, don't hide. Did you come out obediently, or did I drag you out? The cold and venomous squinting eyes looked at the tightly closed small door in front of her, and the red nurse's face began to change. The originally intact face was peeling off bit by bit, revealing the burnt flesh and emitting a stronger burnt smell. I have dozens of numbers. If you don't come out, I'll open the door. 10, 9. 8, with a slow countdown, the number of ghost viewers in Tao Na's live broadcast room began to soar, rising from 70 to 500 in just a few seconds. Hundreds of pairs of eyes filled with evil fun brushed through the live broadcast screen, watching the girl standing against the wall, waiting for her death. The neatly arranged bullet screen with dead characters almost filled the entire electronic screen. When the red nurse outside shouted 3, she slowly extended her purple to black tongue from her mouth and headed towards the doorknob. 1, almost as soon as Tenella opened the door, the red nurse also shouted out the last number. The foul-smelling and blackened tongue pressed against Tao Na's chest, with dense spikes on the tip of the tongue. Just 1 centimeter forward is enough to pierce a person's heart. Sorry, I didn't mean to be late. It's really urgent. Nurse, can you forgive me this time? The girl wearing a white nurse uniform had an impeccable sweet smile on her small face, and her pure white rabbit teeth made her soft and gentle smile seem to have no attacking power, giving people a very sincere feeling. The tongue flexibly retracted into her mouth, and the red nurse squinted her eyes, scanning Tao Na's face inch by inch with a strong and malicious cold gaze. Feeling like a sticky venom covering his body, Tao Na still maintained a smile and took a step forward, pulling up the hand of Red Nurse. Sorry. Nurse Red, I will definitely not be late again next time. The soft and tender voice of the girl echoed in the quiet and almost eerie dirty bathroom. Not only did the red nurse freeze, but even the ghost audience in the live broadcast room were stunned by Tao Na's move. WTF. I'm not mistaken. How dare this newcomer act coquettish on Red Sister? However, her operation is also fine. According to the hospital's rules, nurses should follow all the arrangements of the head nurse and respond to any calls. If she hadn't just opened the door voluntarily, she would have become Red Sister's plate of food now. Do I think the innocent and cute appearance of the anchor looks like a little white rabbit? I was born in the year of the rabbit, and I received a reward of plus 66 ghost coins. Ding! The number of ghost viewers in the live broadcast room has increased to 1,000, receiving random small recommendations from the World Plaza. Accompanied by the sound of coins falling, Tao Na saw that the ghost coin column in his live broadcast room had turned into 66. Detected that the player's ghost coins are sufficient, but it is necessary to spend 60 ghost coins to clear the wish list in the Underworld Mall and purchase low-level skills. Ghost Tales continuously. It was at this moment that Tao Na chose to buy without hesitation, enduring fear and acting coquettishly. Ding! Ghostly Tales skill successfully purchased. This instance is limited to 2 uses. If a lie is fully trusted, it will become a reality. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Is life like a drama all about acting? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 4. Encountering Che Bebe again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Encountering Che Bebe again. Next door corridor. A strong smell of blood permeated the corridor, making it nauseating. Che Bebe's back was tightly pressed against the wall, and her eyes were constantly shedding tears of fear, staring blankly at the entrance of the opposite ward. Help, help, help me. The man's cry for help was filled with despair, as a hand covered in blood reached out from the open door of the hospital room and tried to lean towards Che Bebe. And the man's other hand was holding a pair of scissors, cutting open his belly with quick and fierce movements. Che Bebe gritted her teeth and shook her head, afraid to make any sound, trying to retract her body as much as possible. Finally, the hand holding scissors completely cut open its abdomen and fell weakly to the ground, and the painful moans disappeared. Player Sun Fong, mission failed, declared dead. The sound of the system followed coldly. Dong dong dong. The heavy footsteps were particularly clear in the quiet corridor. Che Bebe turned her head and saw Red Sister walking with a flat face, as well as the girl behind her. The white nurse uniform and nurse hat were neatly worn on her body, with delicate cherry hair clips pinned to her temples. The girl's face still appeared as white as jade in the dim light, with a low eyebrow and smooth expression, resembling a harmless and innocent little white rabbit. A hopeful light shone in her eyes, and Che Bebe suddenly stood up from the ground, intending to say hello to Tao Na. However, Tao Na walked directly to the ward opposite her with Red Nurse and stood with her back to her. Tao Na didn't even give a glance to Che Bebe, as if she was a transparent person. This completely ignored attitude was like an invisible slap on Che Bebe's face, making the last trace of guilt in her heart disappear. Looking coldly at Tao Na's back, Che Bebe squeezed the straw doll in her pocket. At this moment, Tao Na's attention was completely drawn to the man lying on the ground, his pupils trembling slightly. Even though she was mentally prepared, seeing a living person brutally in front of her, her soul seemed to feel a sense of shock. The stomach pain became even more severe, and the throat tightened in waves. There was a man lying on the ground in front of her, with a big hole in his abdomen, blood mixed in his organs, and his eyes wide open. With some difficulty, Tao Na swallowed his throat and slowly looked into the ward. In the snow-white ward, the incandescent lamps emitted a dazzling light. Apart from the mirror hanging on the wall directly facing the door, which was one person tall, there was nothing else and no one. But Tao Na could clearly feel a cold and silent gaze falling on her in the room, and a cold sweat uncontrollably burst out from her back. "Oh my, little rabbit. Look at you, how did you get so dirty?" Nurse Red suddenly spoke up, looking at the empty ward with a surprisingly gentle attitude. "Che Bebe, clean this ward. By the way, drag the body to the cafeteria first, don't scare the children." The room remained silent from beginning to end, exuding an indescribable strangeness. Che Bebe's body trembled as she instinctively glanced at Tao Na. She doesn't want to drag her body to the cafeteria, let alone provoke that little monster in the ward. Seeing that Tao Na was not as weakly controlled as before, Che Bebe could only obediently walk over and drag away the corpses on the ground. "Let's go, you come with me to Ward 7, Red Nurse said to Tao Na. Not wanting to stay here for an extra second, Tao Na immediately turned around and wanted to follow Red Nurse. Just as she turned around, she suddenly felt her left shoulder sink. The piercing chill penetrated deep into the bone marrow in an instant, and Tao Na heard the joyful and childish laughter of the child. "Nurse sister, goodbye," this sound is coming from the ward. Tao Na originally didn't want to go see what was in the ward, but the red nurse in front had already walked a distance, and her legs seemed to have been filled with lead, so heavy that she couldn't even walk. She had to turn her head and look into the ward. The snow-white ward was still empty, but a blurry white figure resembling a child was reflected in the mirror. The blurry white figure slowly raised its hand and made a gesture of bowing to Tao Na, with a stiff and slow movement. Tao Na also raised his hand and made a gesture of goodbye. Bang! The door of the ward was fiercely closed by a gust of wind, blocking Tao Na's line of sight, and the cold breath that suppressed her disappeared in an instant. Ward 7 happens to be located at the end of this corridor, and is very separated from other rooms, as if isolated from the world. Nurse Red pushed open the door of the ward and directly pushed Tao Na inside. Tao Na was pushed to a standstill before he could stabilize his figure. Then he heard the gloating voice of Red Nurse, "Li Xiaoming, come and introduce a new nurse to you." Feeling that Red Nurse was looking too far in the eye now, Tao Na felt a bit strange and looked at the patient sitting on the bed, taking notes. The boy is about 11 or 12 years old, and wearing blue and white plaid on him looks a bit loose. He has a head of slightly curled brown short hair, and a young and delicate face with a pair of black framed glasses. His breath is quiet and gentle. This patient is not quite what Tao Na imagined. But as someone who has lived in a mental hospital for several years, she has seen countless mental patients. Some patients may appear quieter, but they are actually very ill and have a high risk factor. Seeing the young man still immersed in his own world and ignoring himself, the smile on the corner of the red nurse's lips became more and more exaggerated, and the rice grain-sized eyes rolled around in the dead white eyes. This nurse is not simple. She is Mr. Liao's niece. Today she will be responsible for cleaning your ward. Alright, I'll leave first. After speaking, Red Nurse quickly withdrew from the ward and closed the door. Pa. Li Xiaoming closed the notebook in his hand, lifted his dark eyes, and looked at Tao Na. Director Liao's niece is coming to clean up for me, how can I match up? With a light tone, Li Xiaoming's originally normal appearance began to change. Black pus quickly flowed out of his eyes, nose, and mouth, and the blood vessels on his neck turned black, protruding from under his skin like black worms constantly wriggling upwards. After the black pus dripped onto the hospital bed, it turned into densely packed black insects and quickly and neatly crawled towards Tao Na. Tao Na could clearly feel that the temperature in this room was starting to drop, and in the blink of an eye it became as cold as winter. The circuit also began to become unstable, and the lights in the room flickered and made a sizzling sound. The body was frozen in place and unable to move, as if all the blood had been frozen. Tao Na was so cold that he wanted to tremble, and his teeth kept trembling. With her eyes down, she saw black insects densely packed like black tide rushing towards her, and the sound of system prompts rang in her ears. Detected abnormal health status of player, with health starting to continuously decrease by 0.1, detected player suffering from mental pollution, mental value 0.1, Tao Na. Who understands? I'm almost scared to death. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The cost of deceiving ghosts. The joy of gamblers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 6. Once again in dire straits. Heartbeat challenge. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Once again in dire straits. Heartbeat challenge. The heavy and eerie rapid footsteps, like drumbeats densely falling on Tao Na's heart, made her heart tighten in waves. It was absolutely impossible to run towards the corridor again, as it would collide with Red Nurse's head. Tao Na looked up at the other side. Li Xiaoming's room is facing the door of the escape passage. The door is half open, and there is a faint green light shining through, giving a very ominous feeling. Nurse Red said she absolutely can't go to the second floor. If she just passes by the second floor, shouldn't it be a problem? Without much time to think, Tao Na dragged his lead-filled leg and ran towards the escape passage with all his strength. Just as Tao Na was only one step away from the escape passage, Red Nurse also walked out from the corner of the corridor. I see who dares not clean up properly and run around everywhere, said the cold female voice with excitement as she was about to catch her prey. Coincidentally, I saw a small white figure quickly drilling towards the escape passage. The Red Nurse's speed suddenly increased, and her flat face slowly opened with her mouth wriggling. The swollen, foul-smelling, and blackened tongue quickly stretched out from its wide-open mouth, agilely thrusting fiercely towards Tao Na's back. Feeling a gust of wind coming from behind, Tao Na didn't turn back and quickly climbed into the stairwell of the escape passage, then casually slammed the door. A tongue full of thorns penetrated a small part of the stairwell and was caught by the door. Listening to the piercing scream of Red Nurse, Tao Na's ear pricked fiercely. Her head also went dizzy for a moment, and the girl's face was white with no trace of blood, looking fragile like paper. Ding! Congratulations to the player for triggering the heartbeat. You are a qualified and brave nurse. In order to help your patients achieve their wishes, you are willing to offend your head nurse and become the object of her hatred. Next, please continue to work hard and challenge yourself to reach the third floor within 180 seconds, successfully getting rid of the Red Nurse. If the challenge fails, you will face unbearable consequences. The joyful sound of the system mixed with his exceptionally strong heartbeat, causing Tao Na's climbing of stairs to come to a halt and almost fall. Even if her luck is only 10, she shouldn't be so unlucky, right? She suspected that she was deliberately targeted by this game. Ghost audience. Puhaha, little cutie may not be possessed by the decay god, right? Even if a player has a full state value and triggers a heartbeat challenge, it is a near death. Besides, she was just in a very poor state when Li Xiaoming was in that state. At this time, taking on a heartbeat challenge is highly likely to be sending ahead to Red Nurse. So why did she lie and deceive ghosts in the beginning? I see how she plans to get by this time. Bang! The door of the escape passage was forcefully kicked open, and familiar footsteps entered the stairwell, accompanied by the restless voice of the Red Nurse. If I catch you, you'll be dead. Disobedient in turn, damn it, damn it. The burnt and foul smell quickly spread in the stairwell, and Tao Na ran up with his legs up. As the countdown to the heartbeat challenge officially began, the green light in the stairwell began to flicker, as if it were a thick and cold substance, enveloping Tao Na from all directions. Behind her was the relentless footsteps of Red Nurse, only 4 or 5 steps away from her. Daring not look back, Tao Na ran forward with all his might. The body, which had not fully recovered from its negative state, has now reached its limit. The girl's breathing is rapid, and her heart is so fast that it is about to explode in her chest. There seemed to be waves of pain coming from her lungs, and her legs felt heavy like they had been filled with lead, but she still didn't dare to relax at all. For the first time in his life, Tao Na despised his weak body. She had tried her best, but her legs and feet were getting heavier and heavier, and the red nurse behind her was getting closer and closer to her. Schwa. While running in the stairwell between the second and third floors, Red Nurse's tongue thrust fiercely towards her back. The ghost audience in the live broadcast room saw this scene and their hearts instantly rose to their throats. When her sharp tongue touched Tao Na's back, the strong feeling of shivering made her instinctively flash to the side. The sharp barb avoided the girl's vital point and brushed past her arm. Several thin but almost bone-deep incisions were immediately cut on his arm, and Tao Na let out a painful moan, with 2 tears in his eyes. Ding. Detected abnormal health status of player, health value 0.5. With the decrease in health, Tao Na's foot speed involuntarily slowed down. Red Nurse didn't expect Tao Na to dodge her blow. She squinted at the girl with a panicked figure and suddenly grinned with a cold laugh. She suddenly slowed down and steadily climbed the stairs step by step. The ghost audience in the live broadcast room felt even more horrified when they saw this scene. Red Nurse has been annoyed. She no longer intends to let the little cutie die painfully, but wants to completely alienate her and stay here. I couldn't run away originally, but the player is still injured now, it's really enough. Being injured by Red Nurse can cause hallucinations, and I don't know how many players have been alienated in this way. Tao Na could clearly feel that the footsteps of Red Nurse did not continue to approach her, and they remained at a distance of half a meter from her. The countdown to the heartbeat challenge has already passed halfway, with only 90 seconds left. There was a cold and uncomfortable feeling in the area where Red Nurse had injured him, which spread to his whole body. Tao Na felt as if his entire blood had been frozen, gradually becoming stiff and numb. Dong 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 dong. The sound of his heart pounding wildly hit his eardrums, causing Tao Na's eyes to shake. Everything in front of me began to twist. The walls and stairs under her feet were twisted into wavy curves, making her eyes dizzy. Creaking. The sound of friction, like some hard object squeezing together, came from all directions. With a tremble in his heart, Tao Na observed the surroundings sensitively and cautiously. The wall was undulating violently, as if something was struggling to come out of it. Apart from the sound of friction, Tao Na also heard moans. It's so crowded here, it's so crowded that I can't even breathe. The voice full of pain and despair suffocated Tao Na's breath. The surrounding walls began to fall off, revealing what was inside the walls. Inside is not cement, but layers of tightly packed skulls with no gaps between them, causing facial deformities due to excessive accumulation. The heads were all haggard and terrifyingly thin, with only faces tightly pressed against their bones. Those faces looked too familiar, they were her former playmates in the orphanage. A pair of particularly prominent eyes looked at Tao Na in unison, their withered mouths flapping like dying fish. Nana, please, help us. It's so crowded here, we're almost suffocating from being squeezed. Yeah, it's so crowded, she's almost out of breath. Tao Na's breathing also became rapid, and his eyes turned black in waves. In a daze, she seemed to have returned to the time when she first saw ghosts and monsters in the orphanage. In the darkness, a huge monster with slender limbs but a huge belly stood by her bed. From her transparent belly, she saw heads that had not yet been completely corroded by gastric juice, moaning for help. Then, she was also eaten into her stomach. The darkness of not being able to see her fingers, the squeezing sensation of the heads around her, and their desperate sobs all forced her, who was only 8 years old at the time, to a mental breakdown. The once familiar despair and fear flooded Tao Na like a tide. Ding. Detected player's mental pollution, mental value 0.2, ding. Detected player's mental health being contaminated, mental health 0.3, ding. As the spiritual value brushes down, Tao Na's gaze begins to become blurred. In front of her, there are only a dozen steps left, which is the escape gate on the third floor. The walls on both sides of the front staircase twisted and moved towards the center, squeezing and shrinking the originally spacious stairwell. As the space gradually shrank, the cries for help from those heads became even more mournful. Tao Na. You coward. Why didn't you save us? Why didn't you save us? Why didn't you save us? Desperate screams pierced through the eardrums like sharp blades, reaching out to embrace his head, and Tao Na's body trembled. How can she save her? At the age of 8, she managed to save her life by biting through the monster's belly with her teeth. Although that monster no longer looks like a human, its skin has the same tactile sensation as a normal person. Ding! Warm reminder, the countdown to the heartbeat challenge is only 30 seconds left. The sound of the system's prompt rang in Tao Na's ear, but she stood motionless, closing her eyes and not daring to look at the gradually closing wall and the frantic cries for help in front of her. Cold sweat slid down the girl's forehead, her small face pale and devoid of blood. The red nurse looked at the back of the young girl standing on the stairs, her lips almost grinning behind her ears, and her eyes were full of excitement and enthusiasm. Stay here. Stay in this world full of fear and despair, rot and stink together. Ghost audience. Woo-woo, only 20 seconds left, little cutie, everything you see is fake. Fake. Wake up. Illusions are usually created based on the most fearful part of a person's heart. Didn't you see that her spiritual value has reached 25? She's only 5 points away from being alienated, and this player has no hope. I thought there was going to be a reversal. What, garbage player, wasting my time. It's really boring, let's go, let's go. Ding warning, a sudden drop in ghost viewers has been detected in the player's live broadcast room. Currently, there are 300 remaining ghost viewers. Please maintain the number of ghost viewers. Once the number of ghost viewers remains at 0, the player's live broadcast room will be closed, and the player will also be sealed in the dungeon. Wait. Something's wrong, look at her mental health. I saw that the mental value, which had already been illuminated with a red warning light, began to change. In an instant, it skyrocketed from 25 to 99. Tao Na, amp, 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 LT Winky Face. Who am I, where am I? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. King. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. King. The entire live broadcast room fell into a moment of silence, and the ghostly audience's gaze lingered on Tao Na. The girl who had originally closed her eyes slowly opened them. The black and white pupils were particularly deep, as black as an abyss, with cold light floating. His eyes were particularly clear and cold, clearly breaking free from his illusions. Bullying my little white rabbit. Is it great? The girl's bleeding lips curved. With a wild and evil smile, the ghost audience in the live broadcast room froze for 2 seconds before exploding. Ah ah. Why did the little cutie suddenly transform into a person? Inexplicably a bit handsome, what's going on? I fucked, my mental health suddenly skyrocketed to 99. Is this a bug or something? Who can explain? I've never seen such a situation before. She said my little white rabbit is really cute, isn't it? Woo-woo, although I don't know what's going on, it's so cute. Over there, Nurse Red was also confused for a moment. Noticing something was wrong, her plump body suddenly accelerated and rushed towards Tao Na. The girl stood still in place. The ghost audience saw this scene and raised their hearts to their throats. What does she want to do if she doesn't run? Do she still want to solo with Red Nurse even if the mental value increases, other aspects are still weak? Don't run and wait to die. I really can't understand this player's operation. If you want to show it, you can understand. The problem is that you need capital. I don't want to see my brain damage. I'm leaving. The audience, which had been struggling to stabilize, has started to decline again. There are only 10 seconds left until the heartbeat challenge ends. The girl in nurse uniform still stood steadily at the corner of the stairs. Red Nurse rushed to her face, her foul tongue piercing her heart with lightning speed and lifting her right hand. Her speed was faster than that of Red Nurse, and her pale little hands firmly grasped Red Nurse's tongue. Red Nurse widened her squinting eyes for the first time in her life. Before she could react, Tao Na's left hand flashed cold and a shiny surgical knife appeared in her hand. Don't have such an ugly tongue. The words fell rapidly, and the surgical knife cut the Red Nurse's tongue sharply. And also included a kick from Red Nurse. The obese body rolled down the stairs like a ball, and the piercing screams echoed through the entire stairwell. The ghost audience in the live broadcast room were completely stunned as they watched the girl's flowing movements. Is this really that cute little white rabbit? Suddenly, so fierce. Ding. Heartbeat challenge countdown 5 seconds. As the system prompt sounded, Tao Na did not delay. With agile movements, he took 3 steps and ran up to the escape door on the 3rd floor in 2. Her hand was placed on the doorknob, and she seemed to suddenly think of something. Suddenly, she looked up and gave a wicked and unrestrained smile to the ghostly audience in the live broadcast room. In the 9210 live broadcast room, surprises and excitement are always present. Everyone who likes it, please pay attention and don't get lost. As the countdown to the heartbeat challenge cleared, the girl's figure flashed through the crack in the escape door. Ding. Heartbeat challenge ended. Congratulations to the player for successfully challenging and getting rid of the Red Nurse. Reward points of 1,000 have been distributed to the player's account. Standing in the hallway on the 3rd floor, Tao Na leaned back against the door panel, closing his eyes to calm his heartbeat and breathing. After a brief and eerie silence, the ghost viewers in the live broadcast room finally exploded. Damn it, it was loaded by the player. Ghost coin reward plus 100, I now suspect that this player is fishing for law enforcement. Did she pretend to be weak before? Plus 10086 in the front. I also think players are playing a very new type of fishing. Ghost coin reward plus 66, is this player really a newcomer? Who dares to take action against NPCs as a newcomer? Anyway, I haven't seen it before. Rewarding ghost coins plus 100, reward ghost coin plus 50, Constantly giving tips, Tao Na glanced at the live broadcast room and his eyes regained their softness and clarity. Only she knew that what had just happened was neither a bug nor her fishing for law enforcement. But it was that she appeared. 1 month after being discharged from the mental hospital, Tao Na found that her ghost-sucking constitution was stronger than before. Sometimes, when she faced extremely serious crises, the she inside her body would appear to help her resolve the crisis. Tao Na gave her a name, King. I don't know much about King, but Tao Na only knows that King is fearless of all ghosts and gods. He was once more than just a fierce ghost trying to harm her. It is precisely because of his fearlessness that King's spiritual value is so high. King appeared for a relatively short period of time this time, and usually after she came out to help solve crises, she would have to play for a while before disappearing. Perhaps because her current physical condition is really poor. Thank you, Tao Na said softly to King, wiping the fine sweat from his forehead. She has always been a complete pentathlon, and her physical strength is notoriously poor. The just 3-minute chase almost drained her energy. After calming down the chaotic breathing and heartbeat for a moment, Tao Na stood still and turned his head to look at the corridor. The corridor here looks exactly like the one on the 1st floor. The light is dim, there is no person, and it is eerily quiet. The calmer it is, the more unexpected the hidden dangers are. After thinking for a few seconds, Tao Na logged into the Underworld Mall. She just received points and ghost coins as rewards, and now she has finally overcome her extreme poverty. She still needs to buy some props to defend herself. The most important thing is that her current condition is not good, and she also needs to buy some supplements to restore her condition. The Underworld Mall is divided into two sections, the regular product area and the VIP product area. All products in the regular product area can be purchased with ghost coins, while items in the VIP product area can only be purchased with points. After dinner, there is also one more watch. Please give it as a reward and leave a message. For today's last watch, all the babies who leave a message can come to participate in the lucky draw of the small mirror. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Code of Conduct for Bedlams. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Code of Conduct for Bedlams. In the VIP product area, Tao Na saw the lifespan at first glance. Thinking that the lifespan displayed on his profile was only 10 days left, and that 100 points here could only be exchanged for 24 hours of lifespan, Tao Na couldn't help but curse at the unscrupulous merchant. She decisively closed the VIP product area and entered the regular product area. The products in the ordinary product area are black and white in color, and Tao Na cannot click to purchase. Perhaps it is related to her current low level. However, she only has 660 ghost coins now. Looking at the staggering prices of those props and skills, Tao Na decided to start with only one bottle of Spirit Recovery Agent and one bottle of Health Recovery Agent. The 2 bottles of restorative cost a total of 300 ghost coins, and Tao Na bulged her cheeks with heartache. It seems like finding a way to earn rewards. In dungeons, having more ghost coins and points is also a form of confidence. Before taking the restorative, Tao Na carefully reviewed the instructions. A bottle of 100 ghost coins can only restore a player's value by 10 points, and in D.level dungeons, restorers can only be purchased up to 2 times. Feeling once again the malice of this horror game towards players, Tao Na confirmed that there were no other issues with the restorer and drank both bottles. The spiritual value has been restored to 35, and the vitality has been restored to 45. The feeling of dizziness finally eased, and Tao Na suddenly remembered that she had a cute new gift package in her backpack. The initial newcomer gift package given by the system is a second-level super sedative, and its level is a surgical knife. Super sedatives must be injected into the body of ghosts and monsters in the correct way to achieve optimal effects, and can only be used twice per instance. And the surgical knife directly needs to have the maximum effect on the NPC's front just now, which Tao Na thinks is a bit disappointing for her who is completely useless in all 5 aspects. Feeling that the cute new gift package should be better than the initial gift package for newcomers, which can provide some security for their later actions, Tao Na opened the cute new gift package and was dumbfounded. I saw a dilapidated book lying alone in Mengxin's gift package, which looked like the ghost atlas she had used to cushion the table legs before. It definitely won't be what people think. Tao Na smiled to calm himself down and clicked on the detailed introduction of Ghost Talk. This is a seemingly useless and incomplete ghost atlas. Go ahead and collect ghost information to make it complete. Sure enough, it's exactly what she thought. It's a waste. Is this just that non-chieftains don't deserve expectations? Tao Na closed the Underworld Mall expressionlessly and walked towards the other end of the corridor. As he walked, he searched for Director Liao's office. Tao Na walked through a quiet and suffocating corridor, turned the corner, and arrived at the next corridor. The noise was like the tide with the gate open, rushing into my ears. Tao Na looked at the lively scene before him and was slightly stunned. Almost everywhere in this corridor were patients wearing blue and white hospital uniforms, looking very similar to the skulls she had seen in the walls not long ago. They were thin and skinny, with their eyes hanging low and their faces looking withered. These patients are all bald, with several terrifying scars on each person's head. They are like ghosts without self-awareness walking aimlessly back and forth in the dim corridor, their movements mechanical and slow. The noise comes from the whispers of these patients. Rule 1 of a lunatic hospital. You must absolutely follow the doctor's advice, eat and take your medicine on time, and be sure to go to bed on time at night. Rule 2 of the madhouse requires, Rule 3 of the lunatic asylum requires absolute adherence to medical advice, belief in science, and trust in gods who will come to save us. Rule 4 of the lunatic asylum requires absolute adherence to medical advice, believing that there are no gods in this world, no gods, no gods. All the patients in the corridor are like reciting a text, and everyone speaking speed and frequency, including content, are consistent. Except for Rule 2, she didn't hear it clearly. When it came to Rule 4, the patient's tone was clearly filled with a frenzy of hatred. What are they hating? Is it the doctor here or the deity? Just as Tao Na frowned and pondered, the patients suddenly stopped and muttered to themselves, turning their heads together to look at the corner of the corridor. A pair of blindfolded eyes stared straight at the position where Tao Na was, their expressions numb like puppets. Deathly silence accompanied by a cold and eerie aura struck, and her breath froze in an instant. Tao Na's hair stood up and she froze in place. But those patients only stared at Tao Na's side for 2 seconds, then lowered their eyes and began repeating the previous actions and words. Seeing this, Tao Na breathed a sigh of relief with an indescribable emotion. Just now she thought those patients were planning to pounce on her, but she actually wanted to run, but her body was strangely unable to move. Her intuition told her that this corridor was not as easy to pass as she had seen. At this moment, several people suddenly emerged from the escape passage at the end of the corridor. There are 2 men and 1 woman in total, both obviously players, because among them is Che Bebe. Che Bebe pressed tightly against the man next to her. The man appeared to have a very strong physique, standing at a height of 1.9 meters. He was covered in flesh and tendons, and wearing a white men's nurse uniform looked a bit out of place. Another man stood beside Che Bebe and the man, looking around. After they appeared, the patients also glanced at them, but quickly shifted their gaze away. Due to being too far apart, Tao Na couldn't see the expressions of the 3 people clearly, nor did she know what the muscular man had said. Che Bebe began to shake her head wildly. And the man directly pushed Che Bebe out. Che Bebe's body collapsed uncontrollably towards the front. In order to maintain balance, she kept waving her hands and accidentally touched the arm of a patient. The patient, who was originally muttering to himself with his head down, suddenly stopped and raised his hand to grab Che Bebe's wrist. What is the second rule? I can't remember. As the patient asked, several patients around also gathered around Che Bebe. What is the second rule? Several patients were simultaneously questioning Che Bebe, speaking at the same pace and with the same language. Then, more patients gathered around Che Bebe. Tao Na could hardly see the figure of Che Bebe, and her eyebrows furrowed slightly. In this game, except for life and death, everything else is small. She has no interest in watching the play, her mind is filled with the words and actions of the patients. Just now she appeared here with a few players, and those patients only glanced at them without making any crazy moves. Only when Che Bebe touched the patient did they have a reaction. It seems to be similar to what she thought, and NPCs in this game cannot attack players at will. There is a triggering mechanism. The Rule 1 mentioned by the patients is still considered normal, and Rule 2 is not that she did not hear it clearly, but that the patients also cannot remember it clearly. The important thing is that Rule 3 and Rule 4 are very contradictory and seem illogical. Telling logic to a madman is already a crazy thing. But if you want so many mentally confused and illogical lunatics to speak the same words so neatly, why not be crazy? The wall of people formed by the patient was almost blocked, making Che Bebe unable to breathe. She was stared at by a pair of eyes with only white eyes, and she desperately endured not daring to scream. The huge despair engulfed her, gradually pulling her into an unbreakable abyss. In a moment of panic, she saw Tao Na standing at the corner of the corridor through the cracks in the human wall. As if seeing the savior, my eyes suddenly lit up. My hand quickly reached into my pocket and touched the straw doll. Today is over. Every day is double watch, with a minimum of 2,000 words. To celebrate entering the silver circle, I would like to offer a small benefit. Starting from today and ending at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening, all the babies left in this chapter can join the lucky draw group to participate. I will join the group at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Those who participate in the activity should remember to read the book review section and leave a top comment to find me. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Director Liao's Office. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Director Liao's office. Before Che Beibei could crush the head of the straw doll, a strong and powerful arm suddenly reached out and pulled her out of the pile of patients. Those patients naturally refused to let go of Che Beibei and extended their hands towards her. The man let out a cold snort, with an extra chainsaw in his hand, and roughly cut off the outstretched hands. After seeing the patient's arm cut off, Tao Na collapsed to the ground and quickly turned into charred ashes before disappearing. He couldn't help but blink his eyes. It is obvious that the electric saw in the man's hand is also a prop, and it is the kind that is quite powerful. The man, holding a chainsaw in one hand and embracing Che Beibei in the other, strode into the hallway, with another slightly thinner man following behind them. Just now, the other patients who were far away from Che Beibei seemed to have not seen their companions eliminated, still pacing slowly and talking to themselves. During the process of passing through the corridor, the three of them did not touch the patient again and smoothly arrived at Tao Nai's side. As the distance approached, Tao Na finally saw that the burly man's eyebrows had a strong black aura in his heart. She has yin and yang eyes, which can tell that the black aura in the man's eyebrows is actually resentment. Only villains who bear the burden of human life will do this. Confirming that the three of them were not in danger without touching the patient, Tao Na officially stepped into the corridor and happened to pass them by. Nana. Che Beibei suddenly stopped and whispered to Tao Na. What's up again? Tao Na also stopped in her tracks, her voice still soft and sweet, but her tone was very light. Brother Chai, this is my classmate, Tao Na. Che Beibei snuggled up in Wang Chai's arms, looking up at him with a beautiful face. Can we take her with us? She's also a newcomer, and I'm worried she might be in danger alone. Wang Chai looked up and down at Tao Na. The girl looked pale and thin, giving off a very weak feeling. It's not impossible to carry it. This girl is good-looking and looks quite clean and innocent. When it's crucial, she can use it as a pathfinder. Belonging to Wang Chai's 3150 live broadcast room, the ghost audience has become accustomed to this scene. Wang Chai, this bastard, old pervert, does this little girl look adult? A little white rabbit like this that looks easy to deceive is his favorite trick. Tisk, in this D.level dungeon, who wouldn't want to hold on to the thigh of an old player like Wang Chai? It's just. Well, forget it. I'm new here. I've finished speaking earlier, what's the point? And in Tao Nai's 9210 live broadcast room, some ghost viewers also recognized Wang Chai. Wang Chai is a B.level player, this is his fourth time entering a dungeon, and his strength is good. Will the little cutie have a higher chance of survival if she follows him? It's definitely better than acting alone. As long as she can win Wang Chai's favor, Wang Chai may also lead her through the level smoothly. After all, this is only a D.level dungeon. Many ghost viewers believe that if Tao Na is smart enough, he should follow Wang Chai. No need, Tao Na said in a soft and pleasant voice without hesitation, Che Beibei, I don't like to act with you. The girl finished speaking and left without any concern for Wang Chai's gloomy expression. The ghost audience who was slapped in the face in the 9210 live broadcast room immediately felt that Tao Na's brain was twitching. The opportunity to hug her thighs is gone like this. I really can't understand what she wants to do. Anyway, I stayed in this live broadcast room just to watch her crash, wait for her to crash. Feeling that Wang Chai was angry, Che Bebe immediately placed her hand on his chest to help him breathe. Brother Chai, my classmate used to live in a mental hospital for a few years and his brain was not very good. Don't mind. I'm not angry with a little girl yet. Let's go find the key props first. Wang Chai took a deep look at Tao Na's back, pushed away Che Bebe in his arms, and then said to the tall and thin man, Shen Xinyu, the key props should be on this floor. If we really can't find them later, you can use your exploration talent to find them, understand? Talent is very important in dungeons, but its use is limited, so it is not necessary to use talent casually unless absolutely necessary. Shen Xinyu pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose and nodded. Let's go. Wang Chai walked at the front and headed towards another corridor. Che Bebe turned her head and glanced at Tao Na's back, her eyes filled with reluctance. She must find a way to bring Tao Na with her. Carefully passing through the dense crowd of patients, Tao Na finally saw a photo of Director Liao in the second-to-last office of this corridor. She raised her hand and wiped the fine sweat from her forehead. After a brief journey, she walked cautiously for 5 minutes before arriving here, afraid of touching those strange patients. Looking at the department door sign, Tao Na let out a puzzled voice, huh? The photo on the department door sign is the same as what she saw in the copy information before. The man, who is nearly 50 years old, has a Chinese character face, furrowed eyebrows, and looks very difficult to provoke. But a few words on his personal profile were marked with a red marker. Liao Fangquan, a specially appointed chief physician at Qingshan Crazy People's Hospital, is skilled in treating delusions, schizophrenia, and depression. He has previously promoted ***** therapy and has achieved great results. Looking further down, the working hours of Director Liao are from 0.00 to 8.00. At this moment, Tao Na suddenly realized a problem. Since she arrived at this dungeon until now, she has not seen any tools to check the time, so she doesn't even know what time it is now. After hesitating at the door for 2 seconds, Tao Na still reached out and knocked on the door. Excuse me, is anyone there? The response to her was a dead silence. Since there is no one around, she won't be polite. Taking off the hair clip from his hair, Tao Na bent down and pounded the door lock a few times. With just a click, the door lock opened. Previously, at the welfare home, she and other children wanted to sneak out and play, but the door of the welfare home was always locked. She was forced to learn how to unlock and save energy, but this came in handy. The ghost audience in the 9210 live broadcast room watched as the soft and innocent girl skillfully opened the door, feeling more and more that she was playing a very new kind of fishing. Otherwise, why does she always do things that are extremely inconsistent with her true image? Entering the office, Tao Na gently closed the door while holding his breath. The purpose was to reach out and see the pitch black of 5 fingers, and the familiar sense of seclusion instantly made Tao Na's goosebumps rise. Inexplicably familiar coldness and stickiness once again climbed onto the back. In the darkness, it seemed as if a pair of eyes were fixed on her. These 2 days of writing have delayed the updates. Thank you for your patience. The new book period, whether it's collecting, voting, or leaving comments, is very important. So please remember to check in and leave a message after reading it, and leave a paw print. If Sis wants to accompany you for a while, he can only write it well. Once the manuscript is saved, it can be updated normally. That's all for now. Let's see you tomorrow. Thank you, babies. The new book list is 52. Those who participated in the message lottery yesterday, please take a screenshot of the message picture and chat with me privately, so that I can easily join a group. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Difficult Main Task. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Difficult Main Task Padada. Tao Na reached out and touched the button on the wall, and the dazzling light lit up, dispelling the darkness. This office has a complete set of furniture, including sofas, coffee tables, and everything else. It is also decorated very warmly. After Tao Na walked into the living room, a gust of wind suddenly blew past her and slammed the door shut heavily. With a loud bang, Tao Na was startled and aroused. She didn't want to stay here for another second, so she walked straight towards the locked storage cabinet. Still using a small hairpin to pry open the lock, Tao Na quickly opened the cabinet door. There were various daily necessities in the cabinet, and the girl's gaze was immediately drawn to a little bear doll placed in the center. The little bear doll looks cute and silly, with buttoned eyes hanging low, as if looking at the diary in its arms. At a glance, Tao Na saw a corner of the diary with a photo exposed. He couldn't help but hold his breath, his eyes sparkling. When Tao Na pulled out the photo from his diary, the system prompt immediately sounded in his ear. Ding! Congratulations to the player for obtaining advanced storyline props. Finally found it. Tao Na's eyes lit up, but before she could wait for a second for her to be happy, she heard the system's prompt sound again. Ding! Congratulations to the player for triggering a difficult level main quest to restore the hidden story behind the family portrait. The current progress of the story is 0. The lips that had not yet been raised collapsed immediately. Ghost audience. Booyah! That's right. The family portrait triggers a difficult level main quest. Are you surprised or not? Are you surprised? Non-chieftain players have actually hammered. So far, apart from the top 10 players on the points table, no one has been able to complete this challenging task in this dungeon. Although Green Crazy is only a D.level dungeon, the water is really deep. Those who have passed by, come and see. Someone has triggered a difficult task again. Who will bet me how long this player can survive? I bet she wants to be led by a dog in less than an hour. Watching the number of ghost viewers in her live broadcast room gradually increase, Tao Na couldn't be happy at all. However, she didn't show any signs of frustration, but lowered her head to take a look at the photo in her hand. The yellowed photo is a group photo of a family of 4. A slender and gentle-looking woman and a chubby middle-aged man sat on the sofa, with a boy and a girl standing behind them. The boy with a bright smile on his face is none other than Li Xiaoming. The girl's face was burned to the ground with only one hole left, and her appearance was completely invisible. She could only guess that she was a girl based on her figure and clothing. Tao Na guessed that the girl should be Li Xiaoming's sister, because her height is much higher than Li Xiaoming's. After confirming that there were no other available clues on the photo, Tao Na put it away and opened his diary. On the title page of the diary, there is a name written in beautiful font, Xiao Ai. It seems that this is the diary of the girl in the photo. Tao Na flipped back a page. On October 15, 1980, it was sunny. Today is my first day hospitalized, and my dad said I'm sick. Director Liao will cure me, and I believe I will recover. The first page recorded these contents, and Tao Na flipped back a few pages and found that they were all simple daily activities without any anomalies. Until she flipped through the 10th page, the font on the diary suddenly changed from neat to extremely sloppy. February 5, 1981, cloudy day. I remember everything now. It turns out they all lied to me. I'm not sick at all. I am normal. I am normal. I am normal. I'm good, there's another me, and she's also good. We're not sick. Gods, why don't they believe us? Seeing this, Tao Na's eyebrows furrowed slightly and couldn't help but continue to look. February 15, 1981, cloudy day. Today Director Liao gave me another electrotherapy session and said that there is only one me in this world, and there is no other me at all. I know he lied to me because I see her every day. She is the only person I can trust. I have decided that in order to escape, I will pretend to believe their words. On February 18, 1982, it was cloudy. In order to escape, I didn't drink water or take medicine for 3 days, but I still failed to escape. It was she who reported me to Director Liao. Why? I trust her so much, she's another me, we should be the closest people. May the gods bless us all well. February 20, 1982, cloudy day. Who will save me? She wants to kill me. I don't want to die yet. God, please save me. On March 20, 1982, it was sunny. I didn't see another me today, is that dream true? It was Che who killed her. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. There are really no gods in this world. I know what to do, I will soon be free. Quickly, I want to have a speech. The date and some words on the last page of the diary were smeared with black ink, and for some reason, Tao Na felt the despair and collapse of the diary writer between the lines on the last page. With a snap, Tao Na closed his diary and decided to return it first. There is not much content in the diary, she has read it once and remembered it. But now is not the time to think about the diary content. She should take this opportunity to look for any other clues about the family portrait in this room. Just as Tao Na looked back at the little bear doll in the wooden cabinet, his body froze suddenly and his heart rate quickened rapidly. The little bear doll was tilting its head, its eyes fixed on her at some point. Those eyes were clearly made of buttons, but Tao Na could see a gloomy chill from inside. Subconsciously throwing the diary into the cabinet, the girl turned around and ran towards the door. Running to the door, Tao Na reached out to pull it, but the door seemed to be 1,000 pounds heavy, and no matter how she pulled, it remained motionless. The smell of blood in the air began to intensify, and the incandescent lights above began to flicker randomly. The room began to undergo changes. The originally clean floor and walls quickly became moldy and rotten, and the brand new and clean furniture quickly became dilapidated. The little bear doll in the wooden cabinet also gradually became damaged, with bandages on its arms and one missing eye. The only remaining buttoned eye was staring at Tao Na with a chilly chill. The little face that had struggled to regain some blood color before turned pale again, and Tao Na's back pressed tightly against the door panel, taking out the sedative and holding it in her hand. Don't panic in everything, panic is useless. Dida. A thick liquid dripped down from the ceiling above Tao Na's head and landed on her face. End of this chapter.